Hey there, Hoops fans. Good afternoon. It is your boy Jonathan Macri with you for another episode of NBA Takedown here on the third to last Monday of the NBA regular season. I think I got that right. I'm joined, as always, by my two buddies. Jeff Johnson, how are you, sir?
Good, man. Good. Another weekend. The madness is just begun. So I'm looking forward to what's going on in the Sweet 16.
I don't ask me how many minutes of college basketball I've watched over the last 4 days. Don't ask me if I know of any teams that are St. John's. I know St. John's.
St. John's is in the Sweet 16.
That's good. Is Duke?
Hofstra had an impressive showing against Alabama before Alabama leaned into the gaming chair.
I saw that.
Yeah, it was it's one of those you can only have so much effort before the talent takes over and you just like, you just need one more guy. Like you needed one more guy that could match what their front line was doing.
How many more guys did the Washington Wizards need last night?
2.
I was about to say 12.
Anthony Davis, Trae Young.
Listen, we should
If you're
start
into that.
before the end of before we go into the summer. We should predict over-unders for next year. I wonder what the Wizards over-under is going to be. Shawn, I don't have to worry about asking you how your team did in the tournament because you didn't have to worry about how your team did in the tournament. So good job by you.
Well, I did have my eye on one team in the NCAA tournament, and that was the Saints of Siena, because after their strong showing against Duke University, we went and plucked their head coach, who is arguably the most popular player in school history, Jerry McNamara.
Oh, yeah.
They signed him?
Yes.
He's going to play basketball for Syracuse again?
No, but hopefully Syracuse signed some NIL checks because apparently now their goal is to be in the top third of the ACC in NIL spending. And I'm sorry, this is not 1997. So after Duke and Carolina, why can't you be top 3? But baby steps, we'll start there.
Is he going to bring Carmelo Anthony on as a special consultant?
No, unless Carmelo Anthony wants to bring more bread, because we need more bread.
I was about to say, by consultant, you mean executive producer?
Yes, exactly.
Oh man, I need somebody to ask him on the show. You know he's gonna have something to say. He's gonna be like, "Damn, yeah, we gotta get there first. We gotta, we gotta establish something first." Yeah,
one step at a time. I wish nothing but the best for Jerry and your guys. All right, let us get things going.
2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
My takeoff take is quick in that it's not really a very hot take. Bill Simmons, whatever shame he ever had, is gone as he opened his pod today with, the Celtics lost, but there was some travel stuff. Just left it at that. There was some travel stuff. Celtics scored 8 points or whatever it was in the fourth quarter against Minnesota at home. There was some travel stuff. That's fine.
cigarettes.
I know you like that one, Shawn.
Cigarettes.
I for those not watching, the face that Jeff made when John mentioned the name Bill Simmons was priceless. Jeff has been trying to get me to stop listening to Bill Simmons, which is never going to happen because there are people you like that are far, far worse than he is. So
you know what? I didn't say. You know what? I will say this. Maybe vape instead of smoke cigarettes.
I don't
maybe vape. Meaning
that's not good for you.
If you understand the bit, then by all means. But when you bring them as a proof of concept, especially when it comes to Knicks talk, one ear out the other, la la la, that can't affect me because I can't read.
Oh, I don't.
Looking at the sign and I'm saying this can't affect me because I can't read.
Listen, I don't think anyone should be taking anything he says as gospel or anything close to it. But it's to Shawn's point, there is still entertainment value, and Zach's there now on Sunday nights, which I do appreciate.
I will say this. There are very few people that I go, la, 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 la. I'm not listening to you. Hi, Gilbert Arenas. I'm talking to you. But when the Knicks hired Leon Rose and World Wide West, one of the few national writers, national media people who were like, I love this, is a great idea, was Bill Simmons. So I just know when to separate Bill's homerism from his trolling from his basketball. And he kind of makes it pretty clear. But yeah.
What I appreciated in particular about today's show, I only listened like the first 20, 25 minutes, but I appreciated that when he was talking about the Lakers, he was talking about how their season went from like unraveling to whatever, we'll talk about the Lakers, I'm sure, at some point during this episode. But like, and he casually tossed in like, oh yeah, Rich Paul speculating maybe they should trade Austin Reeves because they won't be able to sign him this summer. And oh yeah, who put that podcast on the air? I forget. But what network?
And that's the thing. For everything, because I don't think he hates the Knicks. I just think, one, he's from Boston. Two, he's a troll.
Of course he hates the Knicks. Everyone from fucking Boston hates the Knicks. What are you talking about?
I don't know. I mean, he dislikes the Knicks. He hates the Lakers.
That's true.
He hates the Lakers. And that is the trade-off, because when he is dumping on the Lakers, I am all in.
Yes.
Shawn, I have a clock on my wall that has no batteries. What does that have in common with Bill Simmons' Knicks takes?
Twice a day.
Twice a day, it's on time.
My pushback would be to this. 2 questions. 1, let's say someone came up to you and said that, yo, you said this about me and I ain't like it, yada, yada, yada. And you're like, that's not what I said. I said all these things. Like, where'd you hear that from? And someone said, someone tweeted it. You'd be like, dog, you didn't listen to the show.
I watched full episodes.
Hold on. You wouldn't like that, right?
Well, no.
You would. Okay. Do you listen to Bill Simmons?
I just said I listen to full episodes. Like if I see a clip that I'm like, what the hell? I'll listen to the full episode to get the context, and I'll still be like, okay, let's still fuck out of here.
Okay.
Cool. So like, I'm not a clip reactor. I actually am literate, so I do go and watch full episodes to get the entire context of everything. All I'm saying is he's a wrestling fan, and I see what he's doing. I won't hate him. The game, just because I don't hate the play, I hate the game, doesn't mean I cannot comment on what the player is doing.
Yeah, you can do. Yeah, absolutely. You got me defending Bill Simmons.
I just want to say I completely agree with Jeff in that ultimately it comes down to consume what you enjoy consuming. I don't enjoy consuming Stephen A. Smith. I think, so like, I just like Jeff said about Bill, I know exactly what Stephen A. Smith is doing. The difference is I don't enjoy consuming any of his content. Simmons, I occasionally still do enjoy consuming his content.
Those two are not in the same league, and they do not shoot at the same basket.
I hear you. I hear you 1,000%. Like I'm not knocking it per se, but as I've told Shawn before, specifically when it comes to the Knicks, I am a major proponent of the dismantling of the Knicks for Clicks industrial complex. And he is a cog. He might be a factory. So
yeah,
he's a subsidiary somewhere. He's maybe not the main.
He has multiple shell companies in the complex. So when it comes to that particular thing, there's no leniency. There's zero tolerance.
Fair enough.
That's why people like us are around to counterbalance it.
Absolutely.
Yes, not to wave pom-poms, to counteract it with actual facts and opinions. That's all I'm saying. Like, he's wild entertaining. He's super successful. But when it comes to certain takes, I'm calling out the bullshit to balance.
As you should. I do too. I absolutely do too.
You guys will appreciate this then. I was preparing for tomorrow's newsletter. So Knicks, in addition to having the best net rating in the league over the last 30 games, I tweeted that out before. I was digging into net ratings against top 10 teams, which Cleaning the Glass lets you sort by. Guess what team doesn't have the hottest net rating against the best teams in the league? That would be the team that plays in Boston, Massachusetts. They are 6-14 this season against teams that are in the top 10 in net rating in the league.
I can understand that though. That makes a whole lot of sense. TSA has been backed up for how many days? So you can't expect them to have the best net rating when travel is so fucked. I get that. Like, I'm not gonna hold that against them.
Very excusable. Shawn went away, so I'll ask Jeff, you have any takes you want to get off before we get into this?
Nothing really, man. I think the topic of today is going to intertwine a lot of the takes that I might have, Things are just shaping up really interesting.
Well-
So I'm eager to see where the season goes.
Let's get into it. Sean went to go. I don't know. Sean went to go refill his coffee or something. Sean needs to stay caffeinated. Start us off, Jeff. So what we're doing today is we're going through storylines, races, whether it be with teams in the standings, playoff positioning, awards races, just players that we have we're keeping an eye on of interest for whatever reason down the stretch of the season. And we're gonna go through what we find most interesting. So I'm gonna start with you, my friend.
I'll start off with something probably a little bit off the beaten path. I think this rookie of the year race is fascinating.
Oh, it's
because I first of all, I see more Con Knipple stats and facts of the day. I forgot Cooper Flag was playing in this league, bro. Like I think it's just fascinating how Con Knipple is overtaken Cooper Flag, and the gap is as wide as I thought the gap would be between Cooper Flag and everybody else. Like even for me, I thought at one point I was buying VJ Edgecombe stock.
I remember that.
I was
you were
buying
very
VJ
high
stock,
on VJ.
and I think a variety of factors. I still think, bro, you get into clutch time. I don't want to see VJ Edgecombe. That's a new sentence that has never existed before, right? Like I didn't think like this dude just hits threes when it's 5 minutes or below, and it's like, yo, he has that type of confidence, that elder confidence. So, but Con Knipple, he's just breaking records. He's setting stats for 3-point shooting that haven't existed before, and this is all for a Charlotte Hornets team that has all of a sudden emerged as the NBA League Pass MVP and darling of the play-in race. So
it's a great call by you to start us off there. It's always interesting when, and I don't remember another time, I wonder if either of you guys do, where this has happened, where one rookie elevates from like the statistical comparisons that you see him placed in are no longer, oh, no rookie has done this since this player, or no rookie has accumulated this stat since this year. Now it's not that anymore. Now it's no NBA player has done what he's doing as far as like total threes, 3-point percentage. And it has almost corrupted the race, because now everybody's like, well, if he's now in discussion for like, I mean, should we be considering this guy for like all NBA? I don't think that's actually a real thing, but like he's elevated himself. And yet at the same time, the reason I use the word corrupted is because it has made people lose sight of the fact that Cooper Flag is on a Dallas team that, like, I'm not saying that they stunk in terms of their total roster talent, but you look at what he has had to work with on that team, whereas Con Knipple is one cog in a starting lineup that also contains, as much as we shit on him, LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges and Brandon Miller, who I don't know if Mr. Improve is going to come up, but like Brandon Miller's having himself a year. So I don't know. I think Sean, last I saw, Con's about like minus 200. Cooper's more like plus 150, 175, something like that.
That could change. I'm old enough to remember the 6th Man of the Year race between Emmanuel Quickley and Malcolm Brogdon, flip-flopping, going from like someone going from like minus 500 to plus 250 and vice versa. But to Jeff's point, it's like the fact that VJ Edgecombe is like no longer even in a discussion is nuts to me. Like that's crazy. And it's not, and if you say it's because of their record or things like that, it's like, well, there is a player that's being we'll get to that later. But I just think that it's very interesting. I mean, at the end of the day, all these things are subjective, but it probably is. If I were a betting man, and I am, but if I were forced to make a choice, I'd probably lean towards Con, because Con is on the quote unquote arguably best story in the NBA this year, in this calendar year, in the Charlotte Hornets.
I think I mean I agree with you. I think Khan is going to win. I think it's a justifiable choice.
Mhm.
But I think I'm closer to Jeff in that we may look back on this like as soon as next year and be like, oh, that was maybe a little silly. You
It
know?
happens.
Yeah. It happens more often than we'd like. Shawn, I'm gonna be a good host. Do you want to what's one thing that you are watching? You have your eye on player race,
Real
team
quick
race.
before you go into that,
Yeah, go for it.
Cooper Flag is doing everything statistically better than Khan except
awesome.
for shooting threes.
No,
This may be one of those advanced analytics versus eye test races for rookie of the year, because we're like, yo, Khan is setting all of these records. He should be the rookie of the year. But it's like, well, we can't just discredit what Cooper Flag is doing. And I think it's fascinating how his name recognition has all but been erased. It don't matter that he's Cooper Flag. He's the number one overall. He's probably still going to be the face of U.S. Hoops, young U.S. hoops, right?
Yeah.
Like I that's not going to change. But for this particular race, it feels like none of that matters. Khan is hitting ass load of threes, bro. Like I don't know what to tell you. That's what it's getting at it to this point. And if they make the playoffs, that's going to be the tiebreaker.
Oh, nothing's guaranteed.
Well, actually,
as
no.
of yet.
I pull that back because it's supposed to end at the regular season, right?
Oh yeah, no, 100. But
Yeah,
no,
so-
but the voting doesn't have to happen. Actually, that's an interesting question. When are
The
voting?
voting, I think the voting doesn't happen during by the time playing week ends. But not ends. April 12th, the voting will be over.
Yeah,
That makes sense. Yes.
yeah. So who knows?
I just want to say Cooper Flag, 20 points, 7 rebounds, 4.5 assists, a steal, and a block a game, and he's played everything from point guard to like power forward. You know, the dude's having a ridiculous year. He's been as advertised. You could argue he's been better than advertised, and yet he's not going to win this race. The only thing that doesn't have is the efficiency, which, you know, he's a rookie, so it happens. All right, Shawn, you're up. What's one thing you're watching here over the last 3 weeks?
So if I told you a team that fancied itself as a title contender, or was fancied by some in the media, on social media, national media, as a title contender,
Mm-hmm.
and that team's second best player was shooting 39% from the field and 29% from three, would you consider that team a title contender?
I'm doing a bad job because I think I know who you're talking about.
Who do you think I'm talking about?
Give me the stats again.
39% from the field, 29% from three, an effective field goal percentage of 47%.
And the team's second best player, you're saying?
This is the team's second best player.
Is this an injury situation?
Some may say that this is this team's best player.
This isn't fair. You're talking about Boston.
I'm talking about Boston. And I just find it very interesting that the media and NBA Twitter is trying to hand the Eastern Conference on a silver platter to the Boston Celtics because Jason Tatum, who has shot in his return 6 of 16, 6 of 16, 10 of 24, 8 of 19, 8 of 18, 7 of 15, 3 of 15, and 6 of 16 from the field. I just find it interesting that all of a sudden, like, I'm supposed to be scared of other teams in the NBA, particularly in the Eastern Conference, should be quaking in their boots, and that this is all but sewn up. So so what I have my eye on is, will Jason Tatum finish the regular season with a effective field goal percentage over 50%?
You
know why it's fair?
Why?
No one told him he had to come back.
No.
So there you go.
You couldn't believe before that you were in a position of having to defend Bill Simmons. Now you put me in a position of having to defend Boston. Here's my comeback to that. we're all fathers here. Everybody goes through a period when their child is young of sleep training. Sleep training is fucking painful. It is the absolute
Sleep
correct,
training.
Yeah.
Oxymoron.
As I woke up this morning with my almost 10-year-old in our fucking bed, because apparently we never sleep trained properly. You go through the pain in theory because of there's a light at the end of the tunnel. What say you to the theory that Boston is getting the kinks out of the way now, and that by the time they get to the playoffs, it will be worth the investment?
That would make sense from a strategic or tactical assessment. Like you acquired a new player, or the player you have acquired, like the player walked on the team healthy, or the player, they came back from injury, but it's like, all right, he just has to get back in shape. Not the player who snapped his Achilles in half 10 months ago. So like, I understand why they brought him back. Yeah. Well, first of all, they brought him back because they saw the Knicks might actually win the Eastern Conference. They're like, no, we can't have that. No, that's number one. But number two, more importantly, like, it's not working out the kinks. Like, he has to ramp up and get to a place where he is going to be as effective as he was as they expect him to be in order for him to win. You said this, John. Like, whenever they try this revisionist history that the Knicks would have lost the series if Tatum were there, it's like, get out of here. No. So now I'm supposed to believe like that's not gonna matter. Like, come on. And to your point, if that player is a role player, okay, all right, you'll get back into it. But we can hide, and we can game plan for that around that. But like Jason Tatum. Like, the idea that he's just going to stand in the corner and shoot threes, but then again, shouldn't do that either because he's shooting 29% from three. So as I've said all the time, I didn't think he was coming back. I just didn't think it was going to make any sense. And the idea that him coming back to like this year in March is going to be way more of a detriment than people realize.
Jeff, putting the Knicks aside, who do you view as the best team in the East right now? Not counting the Knicks.
I say it's Detroit. They got the best record. They have arguably the best player in the conference. I am a regular season respecter. So
we know.
But just by the numbers, I would say you got to give it to them because they earned it. If it was anybody else, now and not to mention the gap between that they've created, even with Cade and his collapsed lung, even with the early injuries, the gap that they've created, what do they have, like a 5-game lead still?
It's right as of right now, it's a 4.5 game lead, 5 in the loss column, and it's really more than that because they have the tiebreaker over Boston
and over the Knicks, right? Oh, so the top 3.
Oh yeah, no, they're
probably
getting
Cleveland
the one
too. So they're locking it in. So I gotta respect it and say, I think for the regular season, I think they have been the best team in the East. Like, that's just what it is. Now, if you say, who do I think is going to be the best team come the playoffs, then we could have a different conversation. Because as I've said before, it's funny how proof of concept works when you have one team like Boston who, because they've been there before, because they're a recent champion, you automatically slot them into the team to beat because they've been there before. But at the same time, the Knicks, for example, should fear the Pistons because they lost 0-3 in the regular season with a minus 84 point differential, even though the Pistons have not won a home playoff game in 14 years plus, right? Since 2008, right? And the Knicks have been a team who the last 3 years, I believe, the second round is the minimum. Yeah. The second round is second round above. Actually, they've kind of rolled it back to what the 90s were, where you rolled out of your bed and got to the second round. If you were a Knicks team, they've kind of rolled it back. Like, that's their standard right now. And I haven't seen the Pistons, this recent Pistons, hold up that standard to the playoffs. So I just think it's funny how the proof of concept and the benefit of the doubt works when it comes to certain teams for others. But if you ask me about the regular season and what they've done to this point, you have to give them the respect and say that they are the top team. They are the team to beat.
I think that's all fair. I don't disagree with a word of that. I'm interested to see how Boston plays down the stretch. I think the last 11 games for them are going to be interesting. I'll be curious how much, if at all, they are going to like shoot for the number 2 seed, like really go for the number 2 seed. It seems like a sort of thing that they would do organizationally. I think the top of the East is interesting. My number one, pick, so to speak, in this draft is actually the other way. I think the most fascinating thing in the NBA right now is spots 5 through 10 in the Eastern Conference. So for anybody who may not be up to date on this, the Raptors, thanks to their loss last night, who'd they get smoked by? They got smoked by. I was doing the post game during that game, so I did not get a chance to watch it. They got smoked by Phoenix, yes. They are still in 5th, but there is only now 2.5 games that separate the 5th place Toronto Raptors from the 10th place Charlotte Hornets. Speaking of those Charlotte Hornets, the Hornets have the best net rating in the Eastern Conference since the All-Star break, plus 11.6, followed by the Atlanta Hawks, plus 10.6, and then after that, you get the Knicks, the Celtics, the Pistons. Anybody want to guess where the Philadelphia 76ers rank net rating-wise in the East since the All-Star break?
12th.
French fries.
You're both close. It's 10th. Clearly, you guys are not paying enough respect to just how bad the bottom 5 teams in the East truly are. No, the Celtics the Sixers are -3 points per 100, but they do have a winning record since the All-Star break, so give them that. Just ahead of them, the Toronto Raptors, and then in 8th place in the statistic, Shawn, your Orlando Magic.
Eighth in net rating, 8th in the Eastern Conference, but first in Mickey Mouse's heart.
That's all that matters. I don't know what to make of these. How many teams are there? 6 teams, because I like thinking about, thinking ahead 3 weeks. Knicks are starting their first round. Who do I want them to play? I did a little thing on this on Instagram. I think you could make arguments that almost any of these teams could be like in like the top 2 spots. I think you can make arguments that any of these teams could be in the bottom 2 spots. Shawn, how are you feeling right now about these 6 teams?
So funny, that was one of the things I've written down that I'm keeping my eye on as well. As if I'm a fan of the top 4 teams in the Eastern Conference, I'm not scared of any of them.
Any of them.
I shouldn't be scared of any of them. I saw we have a commenter talking about during our Boston discussion about how the East has PTSD about Boston, which I think is fair, which I think makes sense. Excellence, equity, been there before, that good stuff, whatever. And they said this is the same thing we have for Miami, where every playoffs, no matter the seeding, everyone fears facing Miami. And I just want to say that I have not feared Miami since 2024. Shout out to me and XJ, who told you people that Miami was finished. It's, oh my God, Pat Riley, he called you, whatever. Listen, take the Knicks out of this. If I'm the Celtics and I just spent 2 minutes poo-pooing the Celtics being gifted the Eastern Conference, I'm not scared of any of these teams. I'm not. With that being said, it will be fascinating to see where they finish, because most likely one of the, for a team like Orlando, who everyone had high hopes on, is a very strong candidate to finish in the play-in and miss the playoffs altogether. We spoke about Charlotte, who've been on fire since January 1st. And then you have the Atlanta Hawks. And I bring up the Atlanta Hawks because you remember a few weeks ago, I told you I made a bet on the Atlanta Hawks to win the Southeast Division.
The only person in the world who actually still looks at divisions.
Yeah, well, divisions matter. Just because Zach Lowe, I blame Zach Lowe for the war in divisions, because one, he's like, I don't understand why I have to have divisions. And now divisions matter because one, they determine travel schedule. Like, you play those teams more and often, whatever. Like, I actually believe that not giving a top 6 seed to a division winner is actually a mistake, because why do we have divisions? And if there is absolutely,
well, why they made that change, right? You know why they made that change, right? Because there was a point where people were winning the division but had a worse record than other folks in the conference.
Yes.
Which it's like you either emulate the NFL or you do what the NBA is doing now. Go by record versus go by division.
Yep.
And the NF and NBA, which it is absolutely want to do, completely overreacted to that and said, like, I can understand if you rank them, like if you rank them by record, that's fine. But I think if you win your division, you should be guaranteed a top 6 seed or a playoff start, like, or else just get rid of them. Let's get rid of them. But I digress. We've gone off the rails here.
No, it's fine.
So Atlanta I find interesting because I felt like they could win that dog shit division in the Southeast Division because it's not very good. But they went on this run, and then everyone else, and then just their luck that the entire rest of the entire rest of the division, Washington Wizards excluded, all decided to get their shit together as well. So even though the Atlanta Hawks have won, they won 10 of 11.
No, they've won 12 of 13.
12 of 13. They are a half a game ahead of Orlando and one game ahead of Miami, who also got their stuff together. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. Go ahead.
Miami had their stuff together, and now they've lost 4 in a row. The same as the Orlando Magic, which is what makes this whole thing so crazy. Like we joke about the Magic. Basketball Reference, listen to the percentage odds they currently have. For the Magic to finish in 5th, 21% chance. 6th, 17% chance. 7th, 16% chance. 8th, 15% chance. Out of the playoffs entirely, what is that left? About 30%. Like these teams are all, like, nobody knows what the hell's going to happen.
The only thing I'll say is, I'll land the plane here, is that according to our friends at Tankathon, the Hawks have the 3rd easiest remaining strength of schedule in the toughest remaining strength of third toughest remaining strength of schedule of in the Eastern Conference, followed by the Knicks. Whereas Orlando is 6th easiest. So it's gonna be it's gonna be very, very fascinating. But all I'm gonna say is, like, these teams should be food for whoever they play in the first round, save for Detroit. And I say that because their best player's lung collapsed last week.
Oh,
that might be a thing.
Jeff, do you separate out any of these 6 East teams aside from the group that they're
in? You know what? I want to give the Raptors like their own separation just because they've been
better or worse.
16. Huh?
Better or worse?
Yeah, it's probably just been about the same, bro. Like, to be honest, like, they've hovered around a top 6 seed. Like, I feel like they should be able to lock up a top 6 seed. But to your point, there's just too much chaos. There's absolutely too much chaos in those lower seedings. Like, I honestly don't know what's going to happen. Like, this is why this Eastern Conference playoff race is going to be so fascinating, because Detroit aside, because they have the 1 seed, I don't know, even if you were trying to pull shenanigans with playoff seeding, like, oh, we're going to tank for the 3rd seed or tank for the 4th seed, I don't think you can actually do that. Right. Because we don't know with certainty what's happening for 5 through 8. We have no clue. Like, somebody could go on the Magic could go on a losing streak and end up in the play-in. The Raptors could go on a losing streak and end up out of the playoffs entirely. Like, it's just, there's just too much volatility in that bottom 4 and even that bottom 6, including the play-in teams, where you just got to get real right now. If I'm Boston, Cleveland, and New York, I want to guarantee as much home court as possible.
I think that's where the mentality is at. As an aside, it's actually would be, not that it would be hard for the Knicks to tank into 4th, but like the odds makers, or the projection systems give them a very good chance to finish 2nd or 3rd. I don't know. And then there's the Philly piece of all this, which is like, that could be another thing. Look, Paul George is going to be done with the suspension before the end of the regular season.
Did the Super Soldier Serum kick in for Paul George yet? That's what I'm thinking of. If the Super Soldier Serum kicks in,
check his passport.
He's had time off. And he's had, we better, faster, stronger.
Check his passport. Has he been to Germany?
Listen, I'm just saying, as a first round opponent, can Joel Embiid stay upright for 7 games?
He did.
You tell me.
Ago.
You tell me. Tell me. Can they? Can he? What have you seen in the last 3 years to make you think that that's possible
for 7 games?
Again,
Philly fans ain't even banking on that.
Oh God!
What have you seen in the last 3 years?
Nothing.
Okay, that's why I don't want to have a Philly conversation, because it's like if you looked up the phrase on Urban Dictionary, if ifs were fifths, you'd see a Philadelphia 76ers logo.
And yet they have the same record as the 6th place Atlanta Hawks. All right, Shawn, you got to get out of here today. So why don't you give us one more something you're watching?
I'm watching. Going back to to bring everything full circle to our Bill Simmons conversation, because he's just as culpable of this as anyone. I'm just loving watching the media twist themselves in a notch, trying to figure out a way to give Luka Doncic the MVP award.
Oh.
Like, dog, come on. And convince themselves that, the Lakers may have figured something out. They're thirsty. And I'm like, we're doing this again. Because I remember, I will say this. When the Luka Doncic trade happened, and again, Nico Harrison, you will burn in hell for your crimes against basketball. When that happened, and they went on a little run, and everyone was penciling them into the conference finals, whatever. And I'm not gonna say I was on the island, but I was one of a few people who are like, dude, they might lose in the first round of Minnesota. Like this, teams whose 2 best players aren't good at defense, like the same stick they beat the Knicks with about 2 best players not being good at defense,
maybe 3,
no longer implies when you wear purple and gold. And Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert and Anthony Edwards got them out the paint. And now we're doing this again. And it's Luka's MVP. Well, you know what it is? Luka avenging Kobe by getting 60 in Miami. That got the ball rolling. And I'm just like, listen, man. And now apparently LeBron has accepted his role as his third best player on the team. I'm gonna tell you something right now. If you think LeBron James, over God knows how many weeks in the playoffs, is gonna sit there and let Austin Reeves do whatever the hell he wants, come to Brooklyn and come buy this bridge. I give you good price. Like, and LeBron James, I don't know if you know this, John, was born on December 30th, 1984. It is 2026. So when these games go, when the play, because the first week of the playoffs, you play like 3 games in 9 days. When they start playing every other day, and you're gonna need listen, will they win the first round? Depending on the matchup. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something. They don't want to see Minnesota again. I'll tell you that. Right now, that is a 3-6.
I don't think they want to see Minnesota. I don't think they want to see Denver.
Nope.
Look, Luka's not going to win the MVP. SGA, if he plays 65 games, is going to win the MVP. I think that's pretty open and shut. I'll just say, where the Lakers are concerned, if they actually did, I don't even want to phrase it like this, a finals run for a team with their statistical profile, it wouldn't be unprecedented, because there is one team in recent memory that made a finals run with a net rating that was not really close to the top 10, and that was the Zombie Heat when they made it to the finals against Denver. I think they were 19th in the league in net rating that year. But and they had a top 10 defense. The Lakers are up to, it's crazy, I have to say up to 13th in the league in net rating, but they do have an offense that is trending in the right direction. They're, I think, 8th in offense right now. They're not that far from honestly, they're not far from the Knicks at third. They're a point and a half behind. So I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid, but it's an interesting story. I think that's what I'll say.
And I'll say this really quickly. So 4th, 5th, and 6th in the Western Conference, Rockets, Nuggets, Timberwolves, are all tied. They're in a virtual tie.
Yes.
The Lakers should hope and pray that Houston falls to 6.
That's 100%.
Because if they don't, it might be one and done for them. in terms of they could lose in the first round of playoffs.
Sure. Yeah,
And then
that's possible.
And then we'll have to hear how is another the most competitive 5-game series in the history of the league, because the Lakers just can't get their ass whooped, right?
Oh God, no, they never can. It can, and nor can Boston for that matter. Travel issues. All right, Shawn, you got to go.
Yep.
We'll land the plane for you. We'll see you later.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Jeff, it is back to you. Let's see. Just do one more. And we'll finish up.
Can we talk about Jokic privilege for a second?
Ooh, sticking with the MVP candidate. Sure, I'm down.
Not even so much, because Jokic he's certified, whatever. But this conversation about contenders,
Okay.
I feel like there is a Jokic privilege where no matter what the Nuggets are doing, their contender status is locked. It is grandfathered into any conversation that we have. And the same swords that you skewer other teams with doesn't happen with this team. Case in point, weren't they the ones that lost to Memphis the other day?
Yes, they were.
They lost to Memphis the other day, right?
Yep.
We've had to hear in this market about how wins against subpar teams no longer, like, you have to blow these teams out to show that you're a contender. If you win, you have to decisively win. These dudes haven't done that. I've watched them get the doors blown off of them twice by the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen Jokic is so incredible. He has to be the reason that they've maintained the best offense in the league. Like, I watched them and I'm like, yeah, it just looks so easy. It just all comes to them so easy. And they're scoring a lot of points. They're also giving up a lot of points too. So there's a lot of possession basketball going on involved in that as well. But 121 point whatever is 121 point whatever. I'm not going to poo-poo it. I just think it's fascinating how benefit of the doubt is distributed, especially with that team. And if we're going on the whole Jokic is Jokic, he's one of the greatest players of all time, and as long as you have him, you're a contender, and that's open and shut. All right, I hear you on that, but my eyes are telling me something completely different. And I just wonder if I'm crazy or is this a thing?
So we know that's not the case. That just because you have the best player in the league, you're a contender, because how many years, I think there's been healthy disputes over the last 15, 20 years about who the best player was. There were times where it was Durant and LeBron. There were times where Steph was in the conversation. There were times, go back to when it was Kobe and LeBron. Like, there's always 2 or 3 guys in that group. Jokic is in that group. We can go back over the years and find many examples of players who were in that group in any given year whose teams were not serious contenders, who they were an interesting playoff team. Like, people wanted to see the playoff series. People wanted to see if the one guy could lift them. I think the reason why they're getting the benefit of the doubt is because Aaron Gordon has played. I'm actually going to look it up right now. How many games do you think Aaron Gordon has played this year? I'm going to guess
15,
16. Oh, I was going to guess 25. Let's see. He's at 30, actually. 30 games total, 27 games in which he has started. And they are in those games with him 21-9. I think that's the argument to why we should be considered. It's basically like Aaron Gordon makes them a different team. And with Aaron Gordon this year, they have looked the part of a contender. Now, the flip side of that is since the end of January, so we're talking a period of almost 2 months, I just looked it up, they're a game under 500. And probably more importantly than that, on the year, they are 21st in the league in defensive rating. And again, talking about historical precedent, the only team that we've seen make a finals with a defensive rating that was that bad was that Cavs team. I think it was the last LeBron Cavs team, where they like clearly just did not give any fucks at all during the regular season because they knew they'd be able to steamroll through the East, and they did. But that was different. That was a very weak conference, and it was LeBron knew what he needed to give and when he needed to give it. That's not this Denver team. Now we could loop in the Gordon piece with the defense piece and say, all right, with Gordon, they're closer to a top 15 or a top 10 defense or whatever. I don't know. It's funny because I think a lot of people would still have them be like the second, like after OKC, like the team like most likely to win. I'm with you, man. Like you kind of are what you are after a certain point, and like the clutch time stuff is like very real. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm writing them off.
No, I wouldn't say that. It's more so level of contender.
Sure.
There it is.
They shouldn't be in their own
contender.
They shouldn't be in their own tier under OKC, which I still feel like a lot of people may have them in.
Yeah, and I get it with Aaron Gordon, but then my question is also, at what point does injury luck or lack of injury luck become part of your team profile too?
It's incredibly fair.
Right? Like that was my whole argument for the pre-Harden Cavs, that Garland was not going to be healthy again for this playoff run. Even if he's just come back against the Clippers, something was going to happen. Or you know what would have happened? They would have ran into the Magic in the first round. And then what happens? You run into the Magic and everybody come out bumped and bruised, and now you're pumpkins for whoever you face in the second round. So, I do agree with Aaron Gordon. They are a completely different team. And then maybe people are just like, well, they won it in 2023. They have a majority of their core back. If Aaron Gordon is playing, whatever happened in, I guess, the majority of regular season isn't a proof of concept. But at the same time, I've watched Aaron Gordon play, and he's been Aaron Gordon, but it still hasn't been that transformational factor. I think it's also because Cam Johnson hasn't been Cam Johnson, or what they thought Cam Johnson was going to be. And you replaced him with Michael Porter Jr. I mean, right? You replaced Michael Porter Jr. with him. So you're losing that thing as well. So, I wouldn't be surprised. I might be a little shocked if they came out of the West. But I do think they're one of the top 3 contenders. It's just when we get into those conversations about contender levels and folks will still have them above certain teams, I'm like, like, should they be above the Spurs? Should they be above the Pistons? Should they be, like, we got to talk about that. So, it's just fascinating to see underrating and overrating and how it works based on vibes and what people know, as opposed to what we're seeing, what we're actually seeing on the court.
At some point, evidence has to count. You can't just dispense with it, which is going to lead to my last topic that is interesting to me. And, I've referred to them as Knicks West, not just because they have 2 former notable Knicks, but because of how up and down they could look. Just look at last night. A win in the Boston Garden on a night when they don't have their best player, and on a night where Julius Randle shot. What did he make a second field goal in that game? I think he did. He
hit it like a 3 or something like that in the fourth quarter.
Finished 3 for 14 with 4 assists and 3 turnovers. And he was -4 in a game that they won by 10. I'm just utterly fascinated by the Minnesota Timberwolves. The fact that their coach actually called out Randle a couple days ago for not getting enough defensive rebounds, which I was like, how many times in 5? How long was Tibbs? Tibbs was Randle's coach for 4 years. How many times over those 4 years did he name check him in a not positive way?
0.
I don't think once, right?
Like, it was reframed. It was forever reframed. Oh, well, you got to look at everything going on. Is he grabbing the defensive rebounds? Is he looking ahead before to make the pass? Yep. Is he switching when he needs to? Do you remember your profile? Are you posting up? And when he's doing all of those things, then you can make a proper assessment. Like, Tibbs I know he's a great friend. I know he's an excellent friend, because he probably tells you your bullshit in private, but in public, Tibbs should go into politics. He should be like an advocate or something, because he can make anybody's criticism seem like, well, are you considering everything? And then once he goes into the granular detail, you're like, damn, but I thought he stunk. I don't know, Tibbs. You know what I mean? Like, I thought he stunk tonight, but yeah.
And he also was always willing to he never reinforced public blame. Like if there was public blame going around,
Right.
he never said anything to make you to further that. Whereas not every coach operates that way. See, not only the current Knicks coach, but also Chris Finch, which makes me wonder: was he just frustrated? Was he trying to motivate Julius? I was just very interested to hear that soundbite, and I'm just interested to see this team because, like, again, you talk about the on paper Denver Nuggets. On paper, the Minnesota Timberwolves, man, with Ayo Dosunmu, and he's been awesome. You could argue he was their best player in the game against Boston. Like, Kyle Anderson is back and he's actually playing like well for them. Obviously, they have Naz Reid. They always have these guys that like pop in, whether it's a Bones Highland game or like last night was, more of like a Jalen Clark game, even though he didn't score, but he brought like nice energy. Like they have all of these dudes. They could go whatever it is, 10 or 11 deep, like you need them to. They have gamers between Ant and Dante, even Julius. Like you saw Julius in the second round last year. I want to see what state the Wolves are going to be in on the doorstep of the playoffs, and perhaps just as importantly, who they match up with in the first round.
Yeah, on after school, Shawn and I, we were having to talk about how every team goes through a frustrating stretch. Because my whole point was, for as much as that 2-9 Knicks stretch has been the albatross over their necks this entire season, I could pick out any team and we can go through and find a stretch where their fans were ready to jump off the roof. Sure. And we just so happened to pick the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I'm just looking at those games, just wins and losses without context and certain streaks that they've gone on and the teams that they lost to. And I'm like, whoa, I thought the Knicks had a roller coaster. Oh, no. This is King Dakar. Their record is King Dakar, bro. Like, I'm looking at it saying, boy, you're out, you're in. It's like the meme where it's like, we're so back. It's over. Bros, we are really back. No, for real this time, it's over. Like, that's how some of it looked. And even the fact of, y'all walked into Boston Sunday Night Basketball without it, and Bones Highland went insane.
Yeah. But he does that sometimes.
Right. But at the same time, I'm like, I didn't expect them to win that game. I don't know what that says about Boston. I don't know what that says about the Timberwolves. But I think their level of unpredictability is fascinating because even when they have their people, you just don't know. You just don't know.
You know what's funny about Minnesota? I just looked it up to be sure because I was pretty sure I saw this earlier today. So John Krasinski, I think, tweeted this out a week or two ago. The guy does a great job covering the Timberwolves for The Athletic. That against top 10 NBA teams, and you can look at this on Cleaning the Glass, like the Wolves are really good. They have the fourth best net rating in the league against other teams who are top 10 in net rating behind Detroit, the Spurs, and the Knicks. And yet against teams in the middle, like the middle 10 net rating, they are getting outscored. They have a negative efficiency differential against the middle of the league, which I think like if you're projecting forward for like how well they might do in the playoffs, I think if you're a Timberwolves fan, that should make you feel better because you're like they're not going to play with their food and they're not going to play down to the competition because they're going to have to play up to it because everybody in the West playoffs is going to be good. So I don't know. Let's end on this. Of the teams in the West, put aside Oklahoma City, give me your fear rankings. If you had to, from one to five, so we're considering the Spurs, the Lakers, the Rockets, the Nuggets, and the Wolves, who would you fear the most to who would you fear the least?
You know what's crazy? You probably are almost in my order. I think I would go Spurs, Nuggets. Then it's like a toss-up between Spurs, Nuggets, Wolves, Lakers, Rockets. And that Wolves Lakers tier is literally depending on, it's a coin flip. I think I would fear the Timberwolves more because they've been the back-to-back conference finals.
Man.
And I would understand if you went Nuggets Spurs, or even if you dropped the Spurs to third because they haven't been there yet. I could understand all of that.
There's reasons why all of these teams should not be in the top spot. Minnesota because of their inconsistency. Denver for everything you just talked about. Spurs because of their youth. Lakers because they're frauds based on all statistical indicators. I think the only certainty is that the Rockets should be fifth in this. Now watch the Rockets make the freaking conference finals. You know, and I would go. Why do I not want to say Spurs first? Am I over-indexing for their youth?
Yeah, I go off of based off potential, like the potential, like if they get hot, if they get the right seeding and the right matchups, I could see them getting right to the conference finals. And we know that their regular season history and their cup history against the Thunder. So out of all of them, I'd say that was like my ranking just based off of initial feeling. Just
that's all I was asking
what
for.
it is. If you want to go straight logic, right? I think you put the Nuggets first because they're the only current champion there. I think you go there. Then you go to Timberwolves because they've been to back-to-back conference finals and they've knocked out the Nuggets during that time, right? Then I think you go with the Spurs because I believe that their youth and what they have as a team could supersede whatever the Lakers and the Rockets got going on with experience. I mean, we saw the experience in the Suns get knocked out by the Timberwolves in the first round, right? So
sure, yeah.
I'm just saying, for that. And then, I think I would put the Lakers over the Rockets because I trust their stars more than I trust the Rockets. Because even if you want to cancel out Luka and KD, one team has Bron, the other team don't. I don't care how ancient he is. And then Austin Reeves, if he maintains his level of play,
I'll go. I think you nailed it. Here's the thing. For everything I just said about Minnesota, I think Minnesota has to be first or second on the list. They have to be because they've been there. They know what it takes to get there. Ant is going to be back. And I don't think they don't need to be as reliant on Julius as maybe you would have suspected when they made that trade.
Right. Which then gets scary for the opposition because if Julius starts cooking,
and
at the very least, if he's the defensive rebounder, which I think that's what Chris Finch was getting at, we know, even if people tried to underplay it, Julius Randle was a demon on the defensive glass. If he's doing that, at the very least, and he's a secondary creator, tertiary creator, if you will, he could get his own shot, and he's rolling, and everybody else is doing their job. That ceiling is kind of high, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And yet I also, again, I'm glad Sean's not here for this. I don't want to stick the Lakers. Here's the thing. If we're talking about fear that they'll make the finals, I think it's a different conversation than fear that they could win a round. Because I think the Lakers could win a round against almost anyone. Like win 1 7-game series. I think that potential.
There's too much experience and too much talent.
And there's just too much Luka. Like
that too.
He's been the best player in the league for whatever it's been, like the last 3 weeks. I think it's gonna be a fun last 3 weeks, and I'm so fascinated to see how the matchup shake out more than I have been in years.
Yeah, that anticipation that's built. I think this is the best case scenario for anybody who suggested or was a proponent of the play-in tournament. I think this is the best case scenario. This is why you don't tank. Because of the excitement that this seeding is generating.
But you know what's funny about what you just said? Let's see if we match on this. Why do you think they invented the play, or not invented? Why do you think the playoff in tournament? What's the biggest reason you think they instituted it?
To keep fans engaged longer throughout the course of the season.
Yes, but so where I was going with it was to disincentivize teams that are like your 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th place teams from tanking, and yet like there is no race for the 10th seed in either conference. Like the top 10 teams are the top 10 teams. It's purely about, in the East, it's about jockeying to see who could be 5 and 6. In the West, it's jockeying to see who could get out of the Thunder side of the the bracket,
Right.
quote unquote, right? But despite that, I completely agree with you. Like, I think the play-in tournament has done wonders, and I think it's been like I don't feel like we are just biding time until the playoffs or until the play-in starts, like right now with 3 weeks to go. Like, I'm very much into it.
Yeah, and you know what? Obviously the play-in was definitely a anti-taking measure, right? Above else, anti-taking measure. You have more teams involved in the play-in race, which means you can also sell ad revenue and TV time for the play-in tournament and make it its own thing, right? So revenue was definitely a driver. Anti-taking was a driver, and fan interest was a driver, which leads back to revenue. I think it has prevented those 9-10 teams from tanking, because at some point your individual team's pride has to take over. And I don't think that teams, if they're like, yo, we got a shot to get in the playoffs, these guys aren't going to take off games. They're not going to knowingly throw games or not play to their best. And if you start sitting them for players who you know aren't as good, and that tanks the position, and y'all end up in the play-in tournament anyway, it could be more of an embarrassment, because y'all are going to get smoked because your team isn't going to even believe that they can make the playoffs anymore.
Yeah.
So it's just those bottom 10 teams collectively said fuck it, and are going right into, like, put on their hard hats, threw on the camo, gassed up, got the diesel fuel, and we are full steam ahead down the road, tanks in hand, tanks in order, artillery loaded, ready to battle for that number 1 seed. So yeah.
Speaking of which, my honorable mention for today was between the Pacers, Wizards, Nets, and Kings, who won a game last night against the Nets. How many games will those 4 teams win over the remainder of the season that don't come against one of the other teams in that group of 4?
Wow, that's a good question. That over under for me is 3.
That's a high over under.
Because
3.5 or 2.5?
I'd say 2.5. I'd say 2.5.
That's fair. I think that's fair. That's like one game.
Because we get to the end of the season. If it's like Kings Lakers to end the season, the Lakers have already solidified their spot. None of them people are playing.
Yeah, there is, and like, because of the lottery rules, like, you want to be in the bottom 4. Because if you're in the bottom, no, sorry, if you're in the bottom 3, you have the highest possible odds as a top 4 pick. If you're 4th, that's the thing, is you lose a couple of percentage points on the possibility of getting 1, getting 2, getting 3, getting 4. So that's why I think that there is something of a premium for one of those top 3 spots. But yeah, man, that was some ugly. There are 2 teams on 16-game losing streaks right now. That's
and
insane.
you know what's crazy? Watching the Wizards, I don't think that it's gonna sound crazy, but I don't think they're as bad as their record says they are. I just think that they're just a collection of young, like, these are all 20-year-olds.
Yeah, they're young.
This is can a college team beat an NBA team? You are watching that right now with the Washington Wizards. Like, can a college team beat an NBA team? Like, that's how they're operating. Like, I feel like they want to win. They just can't.
No, so what I'll say for both the Wizards and the Nets, both of whom we've seen in the last handful of days, they both try really hard. So that's
they're just all making rookie mistakes because they're all young. Like, there was some possessions that the Wizards had against the Knicks last night where it was like, I see the next move that you're supposed to make, and they just can't make it for whatever reason. Like, even the Nets, that last play where they threw it into the back court with 1 second left. You didn't even attempt to throw it in the front. Like, that's why I said when people got mad when I said somebody made the call, because what were you cooking? You can't even the most brazen rookie would have said, I'm going to try to throw it to the front court, try to get a foul.
Throw it at the rim.
Else. Something, right? Something. And you threw it at the back court like this was March Madness. They wouldn't have even did that in March Madness. They wouldn't have even did 1 second ago? Hell no.
Oh, man. Yeah. Well, shout out to Brooklyn. Shout out to Washington. Jeff, anything before we get out of here?
Nah, man, like you, I'm hyped to see the end of the regular season, where I'm just excited because, we're figuring out what these seeds are going to be, and I have no clue. Like we're probably 2 weeks away from knowing what the playoffs are actually going to be for the top, at least for the top 6.
Well,
So
like I said, I want to do awards next week, and then we'll save that last Monday for like kind of setting up the final week. Like, what matchups are we rooting for? Like, what are the biggest games we'll be watching over the final 7 games of the regular season? Like all that stuff. It's shaping up, man. This has been a good NBA season.
Yes,
Certainly, we're at no loss for content, so that's always a plus. Everybody out there, thanks for checking out another episode of NBA Takedown. If you're not subscribed over on NBA Takedown's YouTube page, please go subscribe. We are very close to 3,000 subscribers, which would be cool to cross that threshold before the end of the regular season. If you want to listen to us on podcast form, you know how to do that too. Apple, iTunes, and then obviously Spotify. Check us out there. Feel free to toss us a nice rating or review. But for Jeff and Shawn, I'm Jonathan Macri, and we will catch y'all when we catch